All right, unleashing your greatness in 2015. Make sure everybody can hear me here. In business as in life, never assume what you are or aren't able to do, right? Sometimes we assume those things. Only by expanding your mind, stretching your limbs, and testing your courage will you discover that unique individual greatness that lies within you. As I've told you guys before, I have discovered that greatness. I've seen glimpses of it. There are parts of my skill set that I didn't know that I had. There are skills and talents we have that we don't know until we allow ourselves to go through certain times of challenge. As Martin Luther King said, the measure of a man is not where he stands in times of comfort and convenience, but it's where he stands in times of challenge. Excuse me. So let's make 2015 our best year ever, right? Why don't we make that commitment today? We want powerful new ideas by expanding our minds. We want to create new strategies and techniques by stretching our limbs. And we want to create new opportunities by testing our courage. Some things we are simply afraid of. There's some clients and markets that we are afraid to step into because it's a little bit outside of our comfort level, right? Don't let that fear of the unknown or the fear of failure drive you to stay in a place of mediocrity, right? I heard a guy say one time, he said, if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm. So let's make sure that there is no enemy within. So how do we think about making the first 90 days of 2015 more focused, phenomenally productive, and certainly more inspiring? So think about that. You guys have copies of this, so make sure that in your leisure while you're eating some sweet potato pie, something you can read back through this. Every once in a while, a year comes along like no other. Every once in a while. And it's a year that allows you to have a fresh start, a new beginning, because there are things that occurred in 2014 that we didn't like. Maybe we didn't do so well. We made some mistakes. But 2015, I think, is going to be one of those years that's going to allow us to hit that reset button, right? To start over again, right? Do some things right that maybe we do as well in 2014. It's an opportunity to rethink and rewire how you show up in this world, right? Give you an opportunity to correct those wrongs. And that's sort of what I'm looking at when I think of 2015. What are the things that I need to hit that reset button on, right? We live in a time of dramatic change with so much disruption, complexity and uncertainty. For the timid, 2015 will be a very difficult year. For those of us, and I do include myself, who have the courage to rise and face each day as if it were on purpose. I got that from Will Smith. Approach each day as if it was on purpose. Utilizing poise, precision, and audacity, we will change our position in the marketplace. And that's what we want to do. We want to change our position. Please consider that how you begin 2015 as a company, as a person, as a professional will completely set the tone and the stage for whether or not 2015 will create your breakthrough or simply a repeat of 2014. Did a little research, and one of the things I saw was that the African American buying power in 2015 will reach 1.1 trillion. I heard yesterday that it was there in 2014, so I guess that's a conflict in some of the research. African Americans are recognized as the second largest ethnic minority group in the country at 13.7 of the total U.S. population. Minority businesses represent 12% of all U.S. businesses. We represent 6% of all U.S. sales volume. I looked at a study that was done by the Milken Institute and the U.S. Department of Commerce, gentleman, Glenn Yago, who's the Director of Capital Studies, and during the period of 97 to 07. And the study found a tremendous gap between growth and investment, which I've seen. Overall, U.S. firms have grown at an average around 3% a year. The study found minority firms have increased 6 times that rate in terms of sales. Minority-owned firms are producing revenues twice as fast as the average U.S. company. That's what the study found. The problem is funding continued growth. Kevin mentioned that in his comment. Minorities have lower total net worth and net financial assets. They rely much more upon bank lending and commercial lending than other sources of financing. So it's no surprise that out of about $100 billion in private equity capital in the U.S., only 2% of that is going to minority-owned businesses. I contend that part of that is they just don't see minority businesses as viable risk in those particular financial markets. Even in some of the traditional banking markets, they don't see us as viable risk. One reason is the contradictory nature of the federal government. On the one hand, programs like the Community Reinvestment Act have made tremendous contributions to this group. But on the other hand, some federal regulations make it difficult for banks to lend to minorities. Interesting. Because of these regulations, as well as bank mergers, industry consolidation, the money necessary to grow these businesses, or our companies today, is in the capital markets. It's important that we increase minority access to these markets. So as I think about every action, reaction, every cause and effect, there are a couple things that I want to make sure that we hit on in 2015. I want us to seek some real access to capital. Let's avoid these smoke and mirrors. Too long. Avoid the smoke and mirrors. Seek lenders with reputations of historic performance in the community. Self-evaluate your firm and its financial conditions. Another person's biased opinion is not your reality. Elevate the level of financial expertise within your firm. You have a responsibility to make sure that you're counting your pennies and that you're reporting them and tracking them properly, whether it be from a corporate operational standpoint or your actual project that you're tracking. You run a project just like you do a business. Expand your marketplace. Seek new business relationships, that name is, again, relationships, outside of the St. Louis metropolitan area. Seek real long-term business relationships and not, again, the smoke and mirrors. Challenge the commitment of diversity programs everywhere who claim success without the tangible results. Look at the market through the eyes of a business person. And this goes back to something Steve said. Look at the market through the eyes of a business person and not just a minority-owned business. Seek out the national diversity programs for executive-level education and scholarship opportunities. Seek them out. They do exist, particularly on a national level. 3 that I highly recommend. Dartmouth College has the Amos Tuck School of Business. They have an executive-level program for minority-owned businesses. Very high level, just extremely. Northwestern has the Kellogg. They have a graduate management program that's for minority and women-owned businesses through that program. And, of course, the St. Louis University has the John Cook School of Business. All 3 of these programs I went through, 98, 2000, and then in 2005. I can say that they literally will change your life and the way you view your business and the way you accept other people's view of your business. So I highly recommend that's part of this moving forward and reinventing ourselves every year and not being complacent in the status that we're in. We have to move forward and get better and improve. Someone talked about competition in hiring, or maybe they were just talking about hiring in general. But one of the things that I saw in the research is that employee professional development and retention of top talent and onboarding and coaching and the shortage of even the top recruiters to find the talent. Large and small firms must compete for the same talent. So we have to compete for the same talent that the larger firms do. And how do we do that? How do we communicate our vision where a larger company may not necessarily have to talk vision, they just have the dollars. They've got the dollars. So how do we do that? I think the professionals in the industry are smart enough these days to know that they're looking for an opportunity and not just a job. And sometimes they can look beyond the dollars and say, I see this as a long-term opportunity with a smaller business if they've done some research. How do you face underperforming leadership and staff? We all have experienced that at some point in time. We will continue to be challenged with that. And how do we deal with that as we grow and move our companies forward and move from this emerging status into something that's more of a continuous growth? Lack of vision and ability to achieve the desired results, which is what you see in underperforming leadership and staff. Mapping for future talent pipeline. Knowing what's out there, how do we get to it? Through college recruiting and going and finding that young talent. I still believe that you can find the good young talent coming out of school. I think it's just as big a challenge as finding the experienced folks. Something else that I read, Steve, which is interesting, hiring professionals without four-year degrees or standard credentials will soon be more common. I said, interesting. So in 2015, in Marvin's mind, there's a call to action. There's a call to action. Coach Bobby Knight said the will to succeed is important, but what's more important is the will to prepare. Life coach Robin Sharma said the quality of your practice determines the caliber of your performance. So as we continue to work on our skills and our company and our staff, the quality of how you develop your firm and your culture determines the caliber of your performance. You're not just going to go out there and be a peak performer in this industry. It's just not going to happen without the proper preparation, technical training, and having the right folks on your staff, not just on your staff, but as the book Good to Great says, the right people on the bus and the right people in the right seats. George Bernard Shaw said, and this struck me the most out of all the reading that I did, the absolute most. So you will have it to use it in the future. He said, the reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable man persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. Do I need to read that again? The unreasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable man persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. So I respectfully challenge each of you right now that as we close 14, in the next few weeks or so, when we start 2015, that you realize 2015 has the potential to be epic and monumental. And all you have to do is commit yourself to unreasonability. Arthur likes to come up with a new word all the time. I found one, unreasonability. Starting today, let's practice your ability to be unreasonable. What does that mean, Marvin? Become unreasonable. Change the way you think, right? Change the way you create. Avoid mediocrity. The results that you produce and achieve, they all have to change. Be unreasonable in your expectations for yourself. Start with yourself. Don't put unreasonable expectations on your staff and on your team, and you don't put them on yourself, right? Part of being a leader, as I've always said, is you must be first. So put those unreasonable expectations on yourself and let those expectations drive performance. Commit to change, as I said. Never be the victim. Never be the victim, only the victor. Understand that success is a choice. Failure is not an option. See life as a gift, and it is truly a gift. And just because your past has not been perfect, and that is true for most of us in this room, probably all of us, doesn't mean that your future cannot be amazing. I'm sure everybody would agree with that. So becoming unreasonable, there is a part of this society, and we've heard, we've seen, we've read, they discreetly doubt our ability to succeed. They talk about it. I hear about it. They don't think we can do it. They don't think we can move from startup through emerging into continuous growth and then even have a second generation business. I contend that they have no idea what you are capable of achieving. So as your success coach, and that's what I am, I know something about each of you that they will never, ever know. And that is that this world will never be the same because you showed up.